Hey friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have two cards I want to share today, and one is a stepped up version of the first one, so I have some tips and techniques I want to share with you. And I am playing today with some goodies from Maker Forte. This is the Your Berry Sweet stamp set. It's designed by Syberia, and I love this stamp set. You can see the image is fabulous, and it's filled with different sentiments for a variety of occasions, and you can see the variety of different fonts and typefaces. So I love it. I feel like it's very versatile. Then I'm also going to be playing with this retro builder base. I'm going to use this in a couple different ways. When I purchased this, I thought that it was actually one stamp, but it's actually several little stripe stamps, so it's even more versatile than I realized when I purchased it. I really love the variation in the widths of the stripes. That was one of the things that it really attracted me to it. I'm also going to be playing with this 7-layer stencil set. It's called Berries, also designed by Syberia, and it coordinates with this stamp set. So you can play with the stencil set separately, you can play with the stamp set separately, or you can combine them together like I'm going to do today to make a really quick work of adding color to your image. Otherwise, you would want to watercolor or color your image in with Copics. So I'm going to actually stamp 3 different versions of this. I'm going to stamp 2 of these berry branches on white cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I'm also going to stamp one on masking paper. I'll fussy cut out the masking paper and use that on my first card. My first card is going to be a single layer card. I love single layer cards. And I'm pulling out this is called the Perfect Placement tool from Maker Forte. I'm using it on my Make Art Station, which I just got, and I love this Make Art Station because those magnets holding down your stencils really makes it very quick and easy to just get started stenciling. Sometimes I'm kind of lazy about looking for my double-sided tape, and I just hold the stencil, but you know that never works out well. So I put down the first branch stencil. There are 2 stencils to color in the branches. So I pulled those out, and I'm starting with the stencil that has the most open space, the most cut space out of it. And I'm going to use the lightest of the 2 browns that I'm using. And I'm using brushed corduroy. Now I'm using my distressed oxides. You could use any inks you wanted here, whatever inks you like to blend with. I happen to like these, and I have lots of colors of these, so I have enough to get 2 layers of brown, 2 layers of green, and 3 layers of blue. So now I'm just putting the second stencil down, and I'm going to add my darkest of my 2 colors, which is ground espresso, and I am fussing with it a little bit, but it really is actually pretty easy to go on there. So I'll add my ground espresso, and I always love pulling away the stencil after you've put the second color on, because you can see the dimension that it added to your image, and I always love that. Like, I like not having to think about where the shadows should go. You will notice that I do pull out my Tombow sanded eraser quite a bit because I ran out of baby wipes, so I am not cleaning off my hands between layers, and I am a messy crafter, so I get a lot of fingerprint smudges. Now, this is not the correct stencil for me, so I need the one with the most cut open space, and I'm going to use, again, my lightest of my 2 greens on this. And if you're having trouble fitting your stencil on, remember to flip it over. You might have it backwards. So I'm pulling out crushed olive and peeled paint. So I'm going to use that crushed olive because it's the lighter of the 2 colors, and I'm just going to fill in all my space here. And I love a yellow-green for leaves. I don't know why. There's just something bright and happy about it for me. Although I'm not sure I would classify this as a happy color, but I love that it's got that bright yellow. So I kind of positioned my second stencil before I moved the first one. excuse me. But the second stencil is much easier to line up because you're basically lining it up with what you haven't colored in yet. So now I'm going to add that second layer. And again, this is filling in any leaves that weren't already filled in, and it's adding some layers of shading to the ones that I have already colored. Now, if you take this off and you feel like it needs more shading, by all means pull out your colored pencils or your Copic markers and add some more shading with your colored pencils or your Copic markers. Like, that's one way to step up your images always. So, like, don't be afraid to do that. Combining mediums makes it mixed media. Then you can call yourself a mixed media artist, right? So I'm going to pull out 3 blues, and I'm pulling out Faded Jeans, Prize Ribbon, and Chipped Sapphire. The Chipped Sapphire will be my darkest color. The Faded Jeans will be my lightest color. And the Prize Ribbon is actually, I haven't used it very much since I got it recently. And it actually is a lot brighter than I expected. I don't know why. So I'm adding the Faded Jeans to the first layer, and again, this is the stencil that has the most cut open space. So that's the one that goes first. That's got your lightest color. And then I'm taking the next one that's got the larger areas that are cut out, and I'm having a little trouble with this until I figure out I have to flip it over horizontally. Not that way. That was vertically. There we go. So, I had to flip it a couple times to really figure it out. I don't know, my spatial reasoning wasn't very good for that one there. So this one I'm going to add the Prize Ribbon to. And when I pull it away, it feels too bright, so I'll add a little bit of Faded Jeans to the top of it. And you'll notice that it's taking me a minute because I realize this is so new, I haven't put a piece of foam on the bottom. So I grabbed a blender brush, and I do keep my foams on the bottom of my ink pads. The Color Hive inks and the Distress inks and oxides are nice because they have a little bit of a skirt around the bottom with their packaging, so it gives you room to actually put a little piece of Velcro and add your foam, and I like that a lot. I like that it's stored with the ink pad and I don't have to have some system where I have to search for the foam I need. So the top layer goes on, and this is the one you can tell these are the highlights that should be the top layer with your darkest color. So I'm going to pull out that Prize Ribbon, and I'm going to fill in the rest. And I love this Chipped Sapphire. This is one of my favorite colors, I think, in the whole Distress line. So it's just so dark and pretty, and it's got that purple in it. Now, instead of using 3 blues, you could vary the colors. You could use a little purple instead if you wanted to. Certainly there's or a little red if you wanted to add some purple, and it would mix with the blue. It would be lovely. So I fussy cut out one of the images that I colored in from the white cardstock, and I'm fussy cutting out the masking. I'm not going to make you watch all of that. So I'm just going to add my mask over top of this first card here. And then I'm going to pull out that Retro Builder Base stamp set, and I'm not going to remove it from the acetate. I'm going to take the acetate off the side that I'm going to ink up, and then I'm going to leave the other piece of acetate in place, and I'll use that to hold my stamp while I stamp with it. So I'm using English mustard, and I'm putting that in the center stripes, and then I'm using this orange, which is red, and I don't know how to say this, Leicester, and then I'm using this Grand Canyon brown in the bottom, and I'm just tapping where they overlapped and not being fussy about it. I'm not at all being fussy about that. And I'm just flipping this over and stamping it on. I'm just going to give it all a good press, and then I'll pull it away. And I love this color combination. This is one of my favorite color combinations so far with the Maker Forte inks. those Color Hive inks. It's so much fun to see what 3 colors they come out with every month, because the line is just growing and growing, and I love all the colors. Isn't that pretty? Now that's a single layer card. I don't mind the little white space around the outside edge. You can get rid of that by cutting your mask a little bit smaller, and then you'll stamp right up to the edge. I am going to stamp a sentiment directly onto that card base with my Eclipse black ink. So this is truly a single layer card. Although here I'm going to add some layers just because I felt like it needed some, like a grounding color around the edge. So I cut my panel down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm adding it to a piece of Eclipse black, which is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I just wanted that little peak of black around the edge. I just like the way that looks. You could put it directly onto your white card base if you wanted to. And now I'm adding it to the card base, which I have cut at 4 1/2 by 11, and I scored and folded at 5 1/2. I'm going to put this card aside and work on the second one. The second one is going to have the same layers ultimately, but the background, I'm using the same colors, the English mustard, the brown, and the orange, or orange red, I'll call it. I'm going to spritz it a couple times with some water and my mister, and then I'm putting this on watercolor paper, cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I love the look of this. I love this faux watercolor technique. It's so easy, but you get that watercolor look on your card. And I bet it would be really pretty if I had also watercolored that branch. So I fussy cut out that berry branch on the second card and popped it up on foam. I also heat embossed the sentiment in white on Eclipse black paper, and I fussy cut around the sentiment and popped that up on foam. Both cards got 3 crown jewel gems in the lime wired color, and you can see the dimension on this card and how much it adds to the card compared to the one with no dimension, because pretty much they're the same with the exception of the darker green. But you know, adding a little dimension to your sentiment in your image really steps up your card. Adding a little technique to the background really steps up your card as well. So thank you so much for watching, friends. I'm going to put all the links below. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up, and if you subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. So take a gander at all the goodies in the Maker Forte store, and I would love you to leave me a comment below this video and let me know which one of these cards you liked better. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.